Welcome to another episode of Turning the Table. It's me, Adam Lamb, once again with our good friend Jim Taylor from Benchmark 60. Jim, welcome.
Hey, Adam. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We had one or two slight technical difficulties getting the show together, but that's okay. We're here now. And in our luxurious green room, we have our very good friend, Jay Ashton from the SVK Network. I'll go ahead and bring him in.
Jay.
Morning, Jay.
How you doing?
I am very well. How are you, sir?
Good.
I just wanted to welcome Jay. He is a fellow podcaster and the host and producer of the SVK, which is the Cisco podcast, which is the only food service hospitality podcast that I know of that actually streams daily. Is that correct?
Yep.
Fantastic. And Jim, you and Jay have a long time association, do you not?
Yeah, we've done lots of fun stuff together before. So Jay, it's good to have you on. No pun intended here. Turn the tables a little bit. Have you on our?
I know this.
I'm
enjoying this. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, it's great.
Double entendres all around. Yeah, we like.
I love it.
And again, for all our viewers and listeners, this is another episode of our hashtag Lunchbox live stream. We do it every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, and that's available on for the very first time, the Turn the Table podcast page on LinkedIn. Yay. Thanks everybody for getting us over that like hump so that we could actually stream to that page. So now you have one place to go in order to get all the replays, as well as we stream live to the Realignment Hospitality page on Facebook and also on YouTube. So we want you to like, follow, and comment on the show. Your comments are very often kind of giving us the juice as far as the conversation that goes. And today we're going to be talking with Jay about this very, very interesting effort around, and I think this is produced by The Brick. Is that not, Jay?
Actually, it's under my brand. The Brick
is it?
Yeah, so it's under my brand. Which is the first time I've kind of went off and tried something with my brand and what I've done with the industry. So, it's The Brick is a part of it. They're going to sponsor and be a part of it. So, yeah, first time.
And so this is called the Staff Chair Project, and I think the tagline is turning staff break rooms into wellness rooms. And having spent a long time in the back of the house in my career, I can tell you that most of the break rooms I've been a party of have been little more than some lockers and a central bench and a bag of stinky clothes. So not necessarily what I call geared towards wellness.
Yeah. We all laugh at it because they're all the same. They're broken chairs. Our logo has a milk crate on it. They're milk crates. They're upside down oil pails. They're the furniture that broke out one broken chair from the the bar, the old booth. There's some old booths in there and all that, and that's where we the graveyard of our good furniture lives is in those rooms. So this is an initiative. I can't take credit for the idea. I'm just going to put it across Canada, and we're going to start really looking at it. Can I start telling you why?
Yeah, let's do it.
You want to go into that? Okay. Jim knows I can talk. And I don't have to do anything this time, which is awesome. Thank you again.
Yeah, we just want to hear about it.
So here's the idea, is that I have done I've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews over the last few years, restaurateurs all over the globe, and mental illness comes up all the time. Like I can't even imagine how many shows I've had on the subject. And I'm very grateful that we have now brought it up as a forefront of a subject within our industry. We talk about it. It's becoming very easy now to talk about it and address it. But I haven't seen too many actions applied. or things done to do or help with it. It's like we're keep talking and talking and talking, which is good. I thought, well, let's do something. So I was going through, I think it was LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever social channel, and a restaurant down in, I think it was Washington, and I apologize if I get their location wrong, changed their staff room into a wellness room. And I'm like, this is brilliant. Like I said, all those horror stories of those years working in kitchens and those staff rooms, Tim knows that we could do this. So I put out a call to furniture companies across Canada, and the brick stepped up to be a partner with me and to start transforming restaurants' rooms into staff rooms, into wellness rooms, and just really give them a new look, a new feel, and do something in a sense for mental illness that was like an action. We keep talking about it. We just talk ourselves, keep talking forever about it, and play an actual physical place or a space that people can go to. And we all know, and Jim, you probably even know this in your days in the industry too, is you'll see servers having a bad day and they put that face on and then they go out and they have their break and they'll come into the staff room and go back into their horrible worlds. And we just think that, why don't we make that a space that isn't that bad for them just to hang out? It might be a place, we know people come in early sometimes for chefs or they stay late after, that it's a place that they can feel that we're doing something for their mental illness. So that's really the gist of it. It's simple. It can be done. We're looking for 3 locations to start this fall and winter to get it out there. We've had some inquiries already, some pretty big places wanting to get on board with this. And the brick has been outstanding in supporting the idea. And I know I want to leave a legacy also in the industry of doing something. I can't get my name on a menu, like the Shirley Temple, but I want to do something in a sense that I did something that I left this industry, many years, hopefully down the road, that I leave this world leaving something in the industry I love. And
so Jay, furniture, the association with the brick, obviously furniture is a part of it, right? Because, you and I were kind of joking about this last time we were talking about it, that people have tried to improve those spaces before, but usually it's, like you said, they bring a piece of furniture from the dining room or the couch from somebody's apartment that they don't want anymore, right? And it's just the beat up couch where the fruit flies live. So furniture is part of it, but what else are you guys going to do? What else is part of the initiative? Well, is it a contest? Is it, how do people get involved?
Well, I think
So can I just jump in and ask for a little context, because some of our non-Canadian viewers / listeners may not necessarily be familiar with the brick. So I think a little context would help kind of ground the conversation about not only what you're trying to do, but where this initiative is kind of born from. And I know Jay, to your point, that you especially want to call out a couple people from the brick who specifically have been kind of behind this initiative, right?
Exactly. So the brick is Canada's largest furniture, retailer. I don't know how you say that, but they have the most. They're everywhere in Canada. They've been a staple for Canada forever. They're located everywhere across the country, and they also have, which is a surprise to me until I started working with them, is they have a commercial side of the business as well. So they supply restaurants and hospitals and hospitality locations for furniture for their dining rooms and for their kitchens and everything. So great opportunity to get their brand out there into our industry as well, to make sure that people know that brick is not just for your home, but also for your workplace as well. So, but yeah, it's good call out, Adam. People probably thought we're talking about a brick. It's confused a few people already, but yes, it's a furniture company across Canada, and they're brilliant. And I thank them hugely for stepping up and being a part of this. So, and I think for the U.S. market, we can start there as well and start transforming these spaces into wellness rooms.
Yeah, so cool.
Simple.
So Jay, give us a little bit more information about it. Is this like a competition or is it a contest? Does someone have to send photos of how, is it one of those renovation shows? Like how's the whole thing go down?
It's the Jim Taylor renovation show. No, it is really, exactly. We want people to send photos in to us so they can go on LinkedIn, send it to me. they can email it to me, but on LinkedIn's probably easiest.
Mm-hmm.
Send us photos of what their staff rooms look like, who they are, where they're located. Like say, it could be anywhere in the U.S. as well. I'm sure we'll figure out how to do that down there, but we'll definitely um, look at them, see what we can do to help them, and then we want to pick three, kind of like the three winners to start with this year, and then we'll go from there and see what we can create and help.
So is this kind of like you're looking for three particular operations who are willing to take this challenge on? Are there any parameters by which you want to like what do you see to be kind of central elements behind changing what used to be kind of a crappy, smelly space into a place where someone can actually take a deep breath, and whether that's 10 minutes of meditation or just some quiet time. And before you jump into that, Jay, I just wanted to kind of highlight this comment that we just got in the chat, which is, I have to say, my time at Apple changed my view of break rooms, which are really well thought out. My view of what's possible and necessary has not been the same since. So clearly this is a timely conversation for sure.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's awesome. You know what? I think we have to go we'll have to go basis by basis, Adam, on that, and look at. We have to make sure that location understands we're doing this not just so they get a fresh new staff room, but it's applying that it's not fixing, but helping with the mental illness that's broadly across our industry immensely. So we want to make sure that they're on board with that they want to help their staff out and their folks that work at their locations with tackling this craziness we have within mental illness within our industry. So we want to make sure that they're on board with that. And then we also want to make sure that they're going to support it. They're going to take care of it as well. It's not going to turn into what it was 6 months later. And then they're out there advocating for the mental illness that's, like I said, everywhere within our industry. So those are kind of really that simple as we want to look at. We don't want to say it's for this kind or this kind. This will blow your mind. I saw a restaurant 2 weeks ago. I was in a city here in Canada, different part. And he took me down to a staff room. And brand new restaurant, you know what a staff room was? A table. And I looked at the table, and it was like an old dining room kitchen table, like probably from a house back in the 80s. They just beat up. Kitchen. I'm like, because I asked him, I said, "Where's your staff room?" He's like, "Oh, I got this straight here." I'm like, "It's a table, dude." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a table." So I thought there for a second, and Jim knows how creative I am. I'm like, I could even make this table better, right? So it doesn't have to be a big, huge staff room or room. It could be a bloody table as well, right? So we could do anything like make the table. Maybe we put candles on it. Maybe put them a brand new table. We put a picture up behind it. Maybe we put some reading material on it, channels to a podcast, whatever it is. I don't think we can we can say it has to be this or that. We can, I think, work with every location and your user creativity to make sure that we're addressing what we're trying to address by doing something.
So it's not just about furniture, right?
No, that's just exactly it, Jim. It's not about that, right? It's not, I think it helps, but when you see action being applied to something that is, mental illness or whatever we want to have within this space, someone applying an activity or an action to something to address it, I think speaks more than just us always talking about it, but not doing something about it.
Yeah. Adam and I talk a lot about, and our whole sort of purpose in this, discussion every week is about people-centric type discussions, right? And some solutions for operators that can help to improve the sort of employee experience, right? And so, Jay, when you and I were talking about this last week, I mean, that's why we wanted to have you here to have sort of this discussion, because it's such a people-centric piece. And so many restaurants, in my experience, it's not a revenue-generating center. So it becomes this tiny, tucked away in the corner. What's the least amount of space we can give in order to make sure we check the box of a staff area, but don't lose revenue space, right? I mean, I've worked in some restaurants that had 100 staff working at the same time, and their staff area is 10 by 10. I mean, it just doesn't, it just doesn't work. So I think what you're doing is very cool.
It's interesting you say that, Jim, because I always say in a kitchen, in a restaurant, the front of the house is where you spend most of your time thinking about when you're designing it. The kitchen maybe gets a little attention. Then your office for your kitchen even gets less, right? If you even get an office. And then your staff room is the last you think about. right? Like it's the last thing, so it doesn't necessarily get the love, and it can be a 10 by 10 for 100 people, and then I've seen them. I've seen them over I've been 32 years in the industry. I have seen some horrific places, and you just need to apply something to change change it, and use it as a place to discuss these subjects. And imagine if you have this, and we do one of your staff rooms into a wellness room, and your staff is having a hard time, and they sit down with the management or your ownership or your chef, you have that place to have that discussion that feels comfortable and safe, right? And we need to create safe places for these people, and we have these rooms or whatever it is, we can make it happen. And I really think and here's the thing too, it doesn't cost a fortune, right? So you always got to look at that.
Nope.
You look at these things, anything you implement in anything, if it's too expensive, it ain't gonna go. We know that.
Yeah.
So you need to know it doesn't cost a lot. I'm in a green room, they call it here in Toronto, and it's full of bricks and stuff, but it's pretty cool and nice in here, right? So, and it's probably was a closet once. So,
maybe to illustrate your point, Jay, I spent the last 2 years of my career working in senior living. And so there's already kind of an overarching focus on health and wellness within that environment. But like you say, very often it feels like, for the staff, it's kind of whatever crumbs are left over. And we were blessed with, it was Episcopalian, so there's a little chapel on premise. And we had a couple folks who ministered to the flock, and one of them took it upon herself during COVID to actually take over the bar space and turn it into kind of like this real cool kind of Zen space where it was kind of non-denominational. There was the lighting was dimmed. There were a couple different areas where people could sit depending on what they were drawn to. There were some books to pick up, but generally it was a space specifically for the staff to, especially during that time when you have 650 folks under your care that are all at 100% risk, not including them, but also, 100 and, 1,200 staff members, they recognized pretty quickly on that they needed a space where staff members could just kind of check out for 10 minutes. And I think it's interesting to point out that, there was no timer on the door, right? Or a clock in that space. So when someone says, hey, I need to take 5, that might be 30 or 20, but nobody's going to go in there and, hey, okay, click, time's up. We got to get going, because it kind of defeats the whole purpose. And to your point, it doesn't take a whole lot of space, but certainly the ambiance is absolutely critical. And to make it non-denominational, where folks can, feel good dropping in, and even if it's just sitting quietly or to pick up a book of wisdom or whatever. It was pretty cool. I used it a couple times, but I was already preaching about self-care during that time with me and my staff, so they knew that, they could go walk on the grounds, and maybe that wellness space actually uses the outside environment to be part of that. And I know that a lot of restaurants especially in Canada, are in kind of not industrial complexes, but certainly retail spaces, and there's a lot of concrete and not a lot of grass. But certainly, if there's the opportunity to step outside and walk for 15 minutes in another environment, that also could count, could it not?
Oh, I think so. I think you nailed it, Adam. That environment outside and getting the fresh air and getting out there, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, Adam, because I don't think most people, and myself included, didn't think immediately about outside when you talk about staff space. But how many times have you either seen or been a part of the sitting outside, having your break on a milk crate next to the grease dump, right? I mean, that's not any more pleasant than sitting on the third generation couch full of fruit flies. So I mean,
it's the keg in the back. You're sitting on the keg or the greasy spill by the grease trap.
Oh, the aroma brings back memories.
You go to their car.
Adam's having flashbacks
right? Yeah, right. And you know what? It's interesting why you say that is that they're probably doing that because the staff room probably is not
it's worse.
Place. It's probably worse, right? So, if we can, I think the thing is also, I think it sends a message to the overall industry is that we're listening, we're hearing you, we're going to do something. And I think that needs to be, when you look as an owner and you have chefs in here and you have your staff and they see them doing something for that subject, it makes it like we're listening, you're hearing you, we want to do something, we're applying something here. And I think it would be really good for retention. I don't know if it was you, Jim, or someone else was mentioning that to me the other day. This will help with retention. And we know that's important in our industry today. And that leads to growth, right? And that leads to better business, right?
So I was kind of trying to pick your brain a little bit about this the other day when we were chatting, and maybe we could get into it a little bit here too. But so what's the criteria? Is it, you're going to have, I know for sure you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of inquiries about this. I mean, as soon as that's only in Canada, wait till this gets to the US too. But is it, is the restaurant that gets the opportunity to work on this with you, is it, they have the worst looking staff area? Is it, they're the certain type of business? Is it just their attitude, that the right attitude you're looking for around collaboration? I'm really curious about, what's the vetting process for
I think
who's going to have the opportunity?
Yeah. And I think we'll have to go through that, Jim, one by one.
Mm-hmm.
Because we also want to make sure, I really want to make sure that they understand that this is about helping and supporting mental illness. Like I said, it's not just the Jim Reno show or Jay Reno show, right? Is that we're
Jay
doing
Reno
this,
show.
Yeah, exactly. Which could it be? But we want to make sure that it's applying to, that they're on board with what the overall purpose is of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to go one by one because, like I said, from a table that I think we can help that location out just by redoing a table to doing these big, bigger, a retail or, bigger restaurant style locations. So I think we have to go one by one on that. We have to, meet with them, talk with them, so they're on board, and then get our brick people over there to help and see what we can do to help them out and redo it. And it's going to be, it even to a point I was thinking about this too, is that maybe some of their staff wants to be a part of the reno when we do the reno for these staff rooms, where we're painting the brick walls like you see behind me, or we're just, maybe they want to be a part of that too. And sometimes that becomes therapeutic in a way as well, that we're doing something to apply to what people are struggling with. And talk about making it forefront is when you go in there and say, look what we did to help tackle mental illness or support it or help with it. Look what we did. See, like you can see it and you can sit in it and you can enjoy it. So we got to do it. I think we got to do stuff like this more and more.
So I just wanted to kind of pivot back to a comment that we got on our LinkedIn chat by our good friend and partner, Chris Boucher, where he's talking about Apple and his view of break rooms, which are really thought out. And Chris, if you're still watching, I'd love you to chime back in and maybe give us 1 or 2 pointers of what that space impact, like how it impacted you and what were those elements that really spoke to you, because that may give folks who are considering doing this, a place to start, right? I mean, yes, we know we need to clean things up and we need to make things kind of pretty, but aside from that, we can learn from other industries. I mean, that's the great thing about the hospitality industry, is we seem to be really, really good at co-opting great ideas, no matter what industry they are, vis-a-vis, the benchmark 60 productivity metric, which for most industrial organizations have been used for years, but for some reason never caught on in the restaurant industry until Jim started banging the gong about that. So, I'm interested by anybody. Let me see here if I got this. And we're going to just kind of put up one more comment. Was anywhere I've been a leader, I have a rule. If my people ever get overwhelming feelings, they have the autonomy to tell their supervisor or colleague they're taking 10 and to let them take a 10-minute walk outside on the clock to reset them. It's worked wonders, and I think that's great. And I would ask, what do you do in those crunch time moments when you can't really afford to let somebody off to take 10 minutes, because we're in this cycle of, the restaurant gets full and now it's time to jump to action, and then there's a little bit of lag time. So how does a manager actually, or an operator actually manage the expectations of the customer as well as the associate? So, and that's from our good friend Doug Newkirk. So,
Adam,
Jay,
I love that. I got to jump in on that because I love that. I love
please.
The fact that like we can even set a standard that maybe, because the staff room used to be always that place where you shovel your food in.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day when you could smoke in restaurants, it was where the smoke room was. All these different things was where we thought you had to stay there, and so maybe some locations can't let their staff leave premise. That's okay, but I love the fact that people mention that they take a 10-minute wellness walk, or get out there and get some fresh air. And it probably, in a sense, that 10 minutes just going for a quick walk, maybe you suggest, hey, walk to so and so's park or whatever's by your restaurant. But I'm going to say that 10-minute wellness walk, let's say, or in a wellness room, will probably increase your sales from that server or whoever it is, or productivity from the chefs or the culinary team in the back immensely, because like you said, you get that fresh. It's like you're breathing, you're resetting, opposed to sitting in that, that environment that there's still kind of, not happy at that moment in those places. I'm not going to say they're cungy, but you're usually here, and then they're probably, what happens is you have 4 servers sitting there. Let's say they're taking their 10 minutes all together. Typically, they're not talking about rainbows and roses, right? So they're doing the opposite, right? So I think the more that we can encourage, either sitting in a wellness room or going for a wellness walk for their breaks, will actually increase productivity, probably increase sales. Jim's always looking at how to do that, and that will I can almost guarantee, I can see it. You reset. Yeah. Here you go for your second half of your shift, or here you go back into the craziness of the restaurant. I bet you it does. I bet you increases sales.
For sure. I think that so much of this stuff, Jay, is attitude driven too, right? I mean, whether it's, let's look at what the staff area, how that's set up. Let's look at the 10-minute wellness walk. Let's look at any of those things. There's going to, I think, naturally be people who go, I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if we can afford it. I don't know how you're going to cover a section off or a station. But, it's things like, other industries have implemented these, unlimited vacation, for example. I mean, at some point, someone was like, that's not possible. We can't run the business that way. And actually people figured it out. So I think there's just an attitude around taking better care of and protecting people and employee experience that you're onto something here.
Hey, we'll see where it goes.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think I'm compelled to throw my hat in the ring, Jay. So maybe this is a conversation for offline, but if you're looking to somebody to kind of anchor the process in the United States, I would love to. I'd love to have a conversation about that, because we're all in it together. So the more we get into it, and Jim and I have had these long-ranging conversations about kind of non-traditional employee benefits as a tool for not only retention, but also as a point of differentiation in making a particular operation, the preferred employer of, because everybody knows, hey, they get taken really good care of that there. So
brilliant ideas on those. We've had talk.
Exactly, but I really wanted to applaud you for putting your foot in it and stepping in the circle and taking on this challenge. I have no doubt that there are going to be that you might be in for it a little bit, because you asked for 3, you could have 30, so
you could have 300.
Here's hoping. Because if that's 50 to 60 associates per unit, that's a whole lot of people who are getting regular doses of a positive environment to be able to not only mitigate the stress, but also to hopefully alleviate those momentary pressures, which could lead to a more cyclical emotional output. So thank you very much. And for all our viewers and listeners, Jay, can you kind of just give us kind of a thumbnail on how they can actually get in touch with you? Maybe there's someone listening to this podcast right now in Canada and say, damn it, I want in on this. How do I get a hold of you, Jay?
So just do Jay Ashton on LinkedIn, and you'll find me. Connect with me, message me there, and then we're good to go there. That's the fastest. Or in Facebook probably as well, if there's a few people still on Facebook. No shout out there. It's good. They're a good supporter.
Exactly.
Definitely look at LinkedIn and send me a message. You'll see my logo, my brand up there as well, and then you can watch my shows too over there as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I definitely wanted to do that because for those of you who are interested in following Jay's show, I put in the Spotify link in the chat, and I've also added the your LinkedIn connection. And one more comment before we leave it, which is nailed it. The fact that they know that they have the autonomy, that they use it wisely and timely, and everyone has each other's back, battle through the whirlwind, and reset when needed. And of course, that's Doug Newhook, who always makes it sound like we're going to war. My wife said to me once, like, you talk about the industry like you guys are going to war. I'm like, yeah, well, sometimes that's what it feels like.
Far off.
And unfortunately, not having an employer who could provide an asset like a wellness room made it feel even more so, right? And, my particular practice and focus is towards culinary professionals and chefs who want to enjoy their careers without sacrificing their lives. And I think this particular initiative fits right in that scope. And I know Jim, who speaks endlessly and eloquently about, this idea about productivity versus efficiency. It might not necessarily be very efficient to have somebody sit down in a wellness room for 10 to 20 minutes, but it's probably going to make them a hell of a lot more productive. And I think we're going to have to figure that out in the metric. Jim will
Jim, we'll put it on your P&Ls.
Let's do it.
Right.
We'll be wellness room right under the weather.
100%. Let's figure that out. There's a way to find it through that data. 100%.
Well, there is. There is.
Yeah.
Let's
yeah.
do it.
And if you can quantify it, you can certainly put up a really good argument for why anybody would be silly not to move forward on it. So,
Adam, I just want to leave on this as well, is that you hear so many stories of people that were about to commit suicide, that this one thing changed their decision on, this horrific decision to end their life. If this creates one thing to save one of our chefs and our restaurant people, then it's all worth it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jim, any last words for Jay or our listeners?
Well, I'm looking forward to following along here, Jay. I mean, you and I chat fairly regularly anyway, but I'm going to keep asking you what's the latest? Where can I look at some examples? What's happening? How can we help? So just appreciate you being on today. It's good to have a chat with you again.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. I want to appreciate all the comments that we received during the show. And even in a replay, if you're catching this as a live stream replay on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, please leave comments because we answer and check every single one of them. And if you're already doing something like this, let us know. Take pictures, tag us on Facebook. Some of us do really, really well when we have something to go by. It's hard to create in a vacuum. So to see other people doing similar things, I think really provides a lot of juice. And even if you don't have a separate room that you can convert, maybe it's a table in the back of the room. And Jay, to your point, this whole idea about being more staff-centric also kind of probably leads into other conversations about what does it look like to have everybody sit down at the same table and have a meal at the same time, not to create a sense of family, because I think family is the wrong connotation within this particular industry, but certainly a cohesive team, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
So thank you very much for watching and listening. My name is Adam Lamb, Jim Taylor Benchmark 60, Jay Ashton of the SVK Network. Check out his podcast, support his work, and get behind this particular initiative, the Staff Chair Project. So thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you soon.